YouTube channel. My name's Hazel. This is a spinning, weaving and hand dyeing podcast from Mid Wales in the United Kingdom. Today I'm sitting in my new shed, my new workspace, which is going to be for the summer. I was going to put the floor loom in here, but quickly realised that it was going to be too big for in here and that I would want to spend an awful lot of time in here. I spend most of my time in this space now because it's so light, it's so warm. Even though the weather's cold outside, it's been very warm. It's been nice to sit in here. So as you can see, I'm still in my big coat and my scarf, and it's nearly June. It's the 1st of June tomorrow, so it's still not very warm at all. It doesn't feel like summer. But yeah, today I'm doing a slightly different job. I've been asked to do a commission, a small commission for somebody who I know. She has a breadboard and she wants some shells that her son found at the beach attaching to this board. It was a gift to her for her wedding anniversary, so it's rather a special commission that I've been asked to do. And I'm actually a bit nervous about it because I want to make sure that I do it properly, that the shells stay in place, and that I don't ruin the board, because the board is really special to her as well. So yeah, so what I thought that I would do was go through my shell collection. I have a lot of shells that I gathered when I was in the Isle of Skye over the years from the coral beach up there, and I've always wondered what to do with them. So I thought, well, what I'd do is I'd have an experiment with some of my own shells, and I have a template, if I can find it. I have this heart-shaped template which I bought in the works for £1, and I've always wondered what to do with it, and this just seemed like a good opportunity to be able to practice with different glues, attaching the shells onto this piece of wood and seeing how easy it is to wipe off any excess, to see what they stick like to the wood and which glue works best, because the shells that she's given me are quite big shells to put in. So I'll show you. This is the size of one of the shells that she's given me to attach to the board, and I want to make sure that they stay in place and that they don't move. Especially with the heat from the central heating as well, and the different humidities that will be in the house throughout the year, and the board will expand and contract with the heat and with the moisture, with it being a natural product. So I wanted to make sure that what I used to attach the shells would stick to the wood. So what I thought I would do is practice with my shells. So I'll just show you a few of the ones that I've got. Yeah, these are some of the shells that I have that I thought I would try and use. There are many different ones in here. There's some winkle shells, there's some bits of coral which I found on the beach. There's these really nice swirl shells. There's bits of stone as well. So I just thought, and there's also these big swirly shells as well, which I found. I've also got a tray here which I've been sorting with some of the little shells with different colours in. There's some nice yellow ones. There's a nice little diddy mussel shell there. So yeah, I've got quite a nice collection of shells myself. So a few different colours. There's a little purple one there, and then there's some lighter colours as well. So yeah, I've also got some really big shells. I've got these ones as well. These ones. So as you can see, I've got quite a good selection of different types of shells. So I thought that there's this one as well, which is really nice. I thought that I would see what I could stick onto my heart shape. And then I thought that that could go up in here. It'd be a nice memory thing for me, because I love that place. I love the Isle of Skye, and I love the coral beach. I love walking along to see if I can find some really big pieces of coral. I have found 1 or 2 big pieces which are in the bathroom in the house, but there's these little pieces as well, so I'm thinking maybe they can be stuck on at the top. There's a few broken bits as well, so yeah, I'm using a heat gun. I haven't used this very much, so I thought that I'd give this a try. I've had this for a few years now, and I'm not sure how it will attach to the shells, but that's part of the experiment. I want to see which glue is going to be best to use for the commission that I've been given to do. So I'm going to try the glue gun, and I've also got some ordinary standard Yoo-Hoo all-purpose adhesive as well. It says it dries clear, crystal clear, so yeah, so I thought I'd give that a try, because I'm not sure what to use. It's not something I've ever done before, so yeah, so that's what I thought that I'd do today, is glue some of these shells onto my piece of wood, and see how it turns out. So yeah, see how it works, got nothing to lose. So I'll just carry on with this, and when I come back in a few minutes I will go through my knitting projects with you. I've got some works in progress, I've got a couple of finished objects, and I've got some future projects to show you as well. So yeah, I'll just carry on with this, and then when I come back in a few minutes I'll show you how it turned out, and I'll go through my works in progress with you. So yeah, I'll see you soon. Right, as you can see, I've been busy making things with my shells, and I did actually finish what I started in that video, so in the beginning intro there. So this is actually what I did make with it, and this is the shells that I gathered whilst walking on the beach at the Coral Beach in the Isle of Skye. I don't know whether you can see it. It's got some lovely details in it, some beautiful different shells, all different types of shells, from limpets, mussels, cockles, different types, some very exotic looking shells as well. So I really did enjoy making that, and it's got a little hole in it as well. It's got a hole in it in the back, and I've left part of the hole uncovered at the front. So I can put some nice ribbon through it, and that's going to go in the bathroom in the house. So I really enjoyed doing that, and I did actually get the commission finished as well, so that's been good. So I've managed to get that finished, and that's going back to the lady this week. Sorry about the clucking noises and the chuckling noises, it's my little hen Pippa. If you have been following along in my videos, you'll know that I lost my old girl Poppy, who I'd had for 7 years. She was 10 years old, and little Pippa at the moment is on her own. So I'm spending a lot of time down here trying to keep her company so she doesn't get lonely while I try and find some new hens. So yeah, so today I do have some works in progress. I have one of those. I have a crochet work in progress. I have the results of my natural dye that I did with the rocket stove that I built, which I'll put a link to the video above here somewhere so that you can find that. And I built the rocket stove in my garden on my yard to see if I could use dye plants and cook them up and dye some wool without having to use any mains electric at all. So that video I will post up here as well, so you can have a look at that. I've also got some finished objects and a book recommendation for you as well, so there's quite a lot to come in this episode today. I hope you enjoyed the footage at the beginning of me working with my shells. I'm really enjoying this new shed space. If you would like to have a look at that, I will also post a link for that above as well. I did a complete renovation of this shed. It was an old potting shed that hadn't had anything done for it for such a long time. But now it is my new workspace. I have a brand new slate floor, which is fabulous, which I built from recycled slate. It cost me absolutely nothing to do this whole space at all. Everything in here was free. The paint was free, the floor was free, the furniture was free because it's stuff I already had or things that I was given. And yeah, it's just an amazing space to be able to sit and work because it's so light. The roof was free as well, and if you have a look at those videos of me doing the renovations, there is a roof video, and it's mostly perspex. It's probably 3/4 perspex and then about 1/4 in a tin roof as well. I've still got a bit of ceiling to do to make it completely waterproof, but I'm waiting for the weather to dry up for me to be able to do that. So yeah, so it's been really good. I have been keeping busy doing the odd bits and bobs since I saw you last, and if you do catch up on some of the videos that I've also posted, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about as well when it comes to the shed and the other things around the garden. So yeah, so let's get on with the works in progress to begin with, and then I'll move on to finished objects, and then I will show you, as I say, the results of what I did in my dye pot, and then a book recommendation. So that's today's programme. So yeah, let's get down to it. Right, okay, so let's get down to the works in progress. The first thing that I've got for you today is my Birken jumper. I did decide to start it once I'd finished my other projects, and I've not made an awful lot of progress on it, but I decided not to go with the natural yarns because it would have meant me spinning it and washing it and all the rest of it, because I have chosen a fleece that I do want to make this out of with natural wool from a Welsh sheep, but I did decide to start it anyway. And going in with my no spend, low spend year, I'm having a no spend year buying yarn. I'm going to try and not buy any wool at all for the whole of this year. And in my own daily life, I'm trying to have a low spend year where I spend the minimum amount of money as possible to do the things that I want to do on a daily basis. So I will do a video about that at some point, about what that's involving. But this is the Birkin sweater that I've started. I think it's by Caitlin Hunter, but I can't remember, and I haven't brought my show notes with me, so I will put a link for the pattern in the description bar below with all my other links for where you can find me on the internet. But this is my version of the Birkin sweater so far. It is knit out of Jameson of Shetland yarn. It was wool that I got on eBay a few years ago. I think it's an oatmeal colourway. Then there's the green, which is also a Jameson of Shetland. And then these two colours here, the lilac colour and the pink colour, they are Jameson Smith as well. So it is 100% wool. It seems to be going together quite well, considering it's two different wools. It's not the same wool. It's also not the wool it calls for in the pattern. I did do the German short rows on the back, which is there, which I haven't done a lot of. I've done a lot recently, a lot more recently, so I am kind of getting the hang of it. But yeah, it's not turned out too bad. There's a couple of little holes, which I'm not sure if they're supposed to be there, but I can always catch them in at the end with a little bit of yarn. But it is knit top down, so that is the top, that is the neckband. You knit the yoke, and then you divide for the sleeves, and then you do the body. So yeah, you can try it on as you go if you're using a big enough needle, but I don't like to use big needles when I'm knitting. I prefer to knit with smaller hoops, smaller cables in the middle, because I always knit on a cable needle. Knitting in the round, you do need to use a cable needle or double pointed needles, but I prefer cable needles. And then as the body gets bigger, I can just change the cable down, up or down, depending on whether it's getting bigger or smaller. If it's bottom up, then I'll use a big cable to start. If it's top down, then I'll use a small cable to start and then change them over part way through. I'm kind of not sure about the colours. I haven't decided yet whether I actually like it or not. I'm going to give myself until I've done all of the yoke to decide whether I like it or not, because it's not really a colour that I would normally wear. but it goes along with my no spend year for wool, so I wanted to use something that I already had, and I've got 16 balls of that yellow colour. I had one full ball of the green, and I had one full ball of the 2 pinks as well, so yeah, it does go along with it. I think the 2 pinks were bought as part of a kit colour for doing the Bluebell jumper by Kate Davies. But yeah, so that is my Birkin. At the moment I've got no problems with it. I am enjoying it. I can knit and watch my videos back when I'm editing my videos at the same time, so that's good. It is pretty easy to get the pattern in your head once you're starting the row. It's then pretty easy to keep the pattern in your head. There is a bit of knitting with 3 different colours, which is a bit tricky at times because I haven't really done that before. I think I've only done that on one jumper. But yeah, once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy really. So that's my Birkin sweater. So that's living in my little red velvet bag, which I found in the house somewhere. I don't know what it was from, but I think it might have been a Bible bag at some point, but that lives in there. So that's good. I am working on a crochet project as well. I'm working from this book called Crochet Wreaths and Garlands. Yeah, it's a brilliant book, it's fantastic. It's by a lady called Kate Eastwood, and the one I'm doing is the wreath with the primroses on. I don't know whether you can see them. And a combination of that, and there is a garland in here with various coloured, but I just think it's absolutely beautiful. So I thought I would either do the garland or do what the flowers are in the garland and pop it on the wreath. Just as just having one colour on the wreath, I thought that I would do the wreath idea but with the garland idea instead. So that's my idea for that. I've only made a small start on it because I've been busy, but I've been doing some little crochet flowers, and 6 of those, as you can see, 6 little flowers, and the centre of another one. It does call for 15 of them, so still got a way to go. But then I've got a bag of colours in there for my other flowers. So I've got a combination of lilac, I've got red, I've got purple, I've got orange to do different centres or different, because those two go really nice together. I've got a lighter pink, and I've also got some greens as well. Because in one of the patterns, I just have a look at this as well. In one of the patterns, excuse me, there's just a huge bumblebee just arrived in the shed. Just bear with me a second. Sorry about that. Yeah, in this pattern here, as you can see, there are little toadstools, and I love toadstools. So I thought I would try popping the toadstools on my little garland, my little wreath. There was also a hedgehog as well in one of them. I'm not sure if it's in this book or in another book that I've got, but I just love the idea of adding different elements and the different wreaths into the one. I mean, look at that one. It's a harvest wreath. It's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, there's plenty of ideas in this book. I got this on eBay. It does have instructions in the back as to how to do the stitches, how to cast on and things, how to do a chain stitch. There's things in here for Christmas. There's little gingerbread men. There's a Christmas wreath with little birds on. Yeah, there's loads. I mean, there's this one as well with the poppies and the sunflowers for autumn. So yeah, there's plenty to whet the appetite and keep you entertained if you did want to buy the book. There's also these little bird houses to make a garland with birds and bird houses on. So as I say, it's called Crochet Wreaths and Garlands. It's got 35 floral and festive designs in it, and it's by Kate Eastwood. Yeah, it's a great book. It's a brilliant book. I've really enjoyed looking through it, and I'm hoping to get that wreath finished or the garland finished and then pop it up in here to add a bit of decoration in here. So that'll be nice when that's done. Now let's go on to works in progress. So as I haven't done an awful lot of new projects because I've been so busy doing this shed. Sorry, there's a little wren just turned up now as well in the bush outside. Yeah, so I haven't done any new projects at all. I did start casting on another gingerbread sweater, but I didn't like the wool that I was using, so I undid that. I ripped that back, I frogged it. I'll have to find another wool because I do want to knit another gingerbread sweater. But yeah, so my finished objects, I don't know if I've shown this sweater in my last video, but I rooted it out to show you anyway. This is a pattern that I did for myself. I bought some Croft wool, I think it was by Blacker Yarns, the Croft it's called. It's Shetland wool, and it was lovely wool. I got 5 skeins for £30, but I think it's gone up to £35 now, and I bought it about 4 years ago, I think, on eBay. You get it in a pack. So yeah, I just made the pattern up myself. It's a lovely comfortable sweater. It was just knit as a tube. I don't know whether you can see, it's a crop sweater, just knit in a tube. And then at the top you just stitch the top where you want the opening for your neck, and then stitch across for your shoulders. And then I just picked up for the sleeves. What you do is you knit it from the bottom up, so you start at the bottom, knit it up, and then you put it onto two circular needles and knit the space you want for your sleeves. And then you pick up for your sleeves once you've done the neckband and the shoulders. So it was really easy, really easy. It took no time at all. It was an Aran weight wool. It was knit on 5mm needles, or 6mm needles I think I did it on in the end. And it's a lovely warm sweater to wear. It is cropped, so it is waist length. If I can, I'll pop a picture in for you of it finished. So that was that. I started that in 2019 when we went on holiday to Cornwall, but I didn't finish it until this year. That's how slow I am sometimes with knitting. It just sat in the bag. I didn't know what to do with it really. I'd got to a point where I'd done cast off and divided for the sleeves, and then just didn't know what to do really with the neck. So in the end I made it up as went along, and it actually turned out really well. I think I will knit another one. So that's that. That was my own pattern, so there's no pattern to... I can always just put it some general instructions if anybody wants them. The next project that I finished is my gingerbread sweater. This is also knit out of yarn that I already have. I bought this yarn 20 years ago. I talked about it last time in my last video. Bought it when I was working in a wool shop. It sat in my stash for that long, embarrassingly, not being used. So yeah, it's nice to finally get it used. And this at the moment is my favourite sweater. It's so comfortable to wear. The wool is so nice. It's I think it was 30% wool and 70% acrylic. And I can't normally wear plastic, but it just seems to have the right amount of wool content in it that I can wear it and be comfortable in it. So I'm at that age, unfortunately. Yeah, so it's knit from the top down. It is another crop sweater, so it falls just on my hips. The other one's a little bit shorter, it's above my hips, but this one is on my hips. So for my weight at the moment, it is a good fit. It is a raglan as well, and then you do knit into the front and back of the loop, knit two together. So that was that. So you start at the neck, German short row again on the back, so it's lower at the back than the front, higher at the back than the front, excuse me. Then you divide for the sleeves, then you do the body, and then you do your sleeves. So yeah, I really enjoyed knitting this one, and so much so I have tried to knit it again, as I say, but the wool that I was using was a chunky wool, and it was just turning out too big even in the smallest size. So I've torn that back, ripped it back, and I do have is 2 balls of this wool in a light pink that I really don't like, but they are full balls. So what I thought I would do was try out my rocket stove and yeah, try dyeing it, over dyeing it with some acid dyes and see if that works. I've never tried acid dyes on acrylic before, so I don't know if they work, but I thought it was worth a try. The wool's sat there for 20 years anyway, so it doesn't matter if it gets wrecked. I can always make it into a blanket or something. So yeah, so that's going to be something that I'm going to have a go of. But yeah, that's my gingerbread sweater, so I'll stick a photograph in and a link in the description box below for you. Now this one is my Kate Davies cardigan. This was a bit of a disaster. The neckband turned out too big. The steek turned out really untidy. I haven't blocked it yet. I kind of fell out of love with it because even though I'm a bigger size now than when I started, it's turned out far too big. So I don't know what I've done wrong. I was wondering whether to chuck it in the washing machine and the tumble dryer and see if I can shrink it, because it is 100% wool. But I have tried to fix the neckband with elastic and that snapped. Shearing elastic. It's knit in my hand spun Shetland yarn. It has patterning on the sleeve. Then it has that pattern on the yoke. That's the back. It has the same pattern on the front. It's got my own handmade buttons on. So it's got my handmade buttons all along the bottom there, which I sell in my Etsy shop, and the link for that's in the description bar below. Yeah, the colour wool that I got was from Wonder Wool in Wales about 4 years ago now, when I last went, and it's a slightly different thickness to my hand spun, because my hand spun always comes out sort of an Aran weight. Doesn't matter how thin I try to spin it, it'll still come out an Aran weight. So even though I thought it was thin enough to go with the wool when I did the swatch, which I never swatch but I thought I would for this, it still turned out different on the yoke than it's turned out on the bottom. I have worn it a few times. I just wish I could sort the neckband out. I can cope with the rest. I can cope with it being slightly oversized, because in the winter it'll be nice that it's a bit more baggy. But the neck is just so stretched. If anyone has any ideas of how I can fix the neck, then please do let me know. I've tried needle felting it, that didn't work. I've tried felting it with soap and water, that didn't work. I've tried shearing elastic, that snapped, it was too fine, that didn't work. My only other thought was to put some wool, stitch some wool, excuse me, that's the chicken tracing them off. The only other thought was to do some wool through the neckband and try and tighten it a little bit. It would take out a lot of the stretch, but other than that I'm just at a loss as to what to do, because the problem is the neckband was done before it was steeked. So before I cut it up the middle, you do the neckband and then you cut it, and then you pick up the stitches to do the button band and the band for the buttonhole. So yeah, I don't know what to do with it really. Other than chuck it in the washing machine and see what happens. If it turns out a children's sweater, I can always gift it to a friend for a daughter, or give it to another friend who's an awful lot slimmer than I am, who always loves my hand spun stuff, by the way. Oh, sorry about that, someone just came to the house, so I had to disappear. Yeah, so as I was saying, I don't know what to do with the neckband or the size, but on the plus side I have found this nice ribbon. It's got nice little rabbits on it anyway, but it won't focus. If I pop it on there, maybe it will. So that's going to be my trim to cover over where the steek is. It's a little bit narrow, but what I'm thinking is just popping it over the edge like that. There you go, you can see the rabbits now. It's just pop it over the edge of the steek just to neaten that off a little bit. So yeah, so that's going to be my edging strip, the little hares or rabbits or whatever they are. So that's that. So hopefully I'll have that done soon, but it's a winter weight jumper anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So that's my finished objects. Yeah, that's all my finished objects, can't see anything else. The other thing that I did while I was having a bad back and not able to sit down for very long was I built a rocket stove, as I said at the beginning. I'll just pop a link here for you again so that you can have a look at that. And what a rocket stove is it's built out of breeze blocks with a slate base. I put bricks on the floor and then I put a piece of slate over the top, and then breeze blocks, and then a H block, concrete block on the top. And what you do is you build your fire inside the breeze blocks, then that will go up through the chimney, which is the H block, and then you can put your pans on top. So that was what I did. If you do want to have a look and see how I built that, as I say, there is a link at the top here for you to have a look at that. It was a great experiment. I did manage to dye some wool with some dandelion liquid that I found from before we moved into the house from a couple of years ago. I'm not really happy with the colour, but it was a very old liquid, and I'm even surprised that I got any colour out of it, but this was the colour that I got. It's got a bit of a grey tinge to it, but yeah, it was still a good experiment to do. It was still a fun experiment to do, but I will definitely use the rocket stove again. I can always try over dyeing these with some fresh daffodil flowers, which I picked and I foraged for, and I did a video about foraging for natural dyes as well, so there's a link for that above as well. And this is a daffodil flower, as I say, from about 2 years ago, 2020, before we moved, and I've done it on Shetland wool, which came in a big cone, and then I skeined it off and popped it into the dye pot. So I definitely use that stove again. I found on the internet a way of making fire, where you use a tuna can, you fill it with cardboard in like a swirl shape, and then you pour melted wax over the top of that, and then what you can do then is you can put that inside the hole where you would put the fire into the rocket stove, set that on alight, and that will burn for hours, and it gives out a really good heat to where you can get water to boiling point. So I'm actually going to have a go of that as well, to see if I can dye my yarn without using any energy, any electricity or gas or oil or anything like that, and try and do it completely self-sufficient. So that will be handy, because when you are dyeing wool, especially with natural dyes, it can take an hour and a half cooking time for the colours to come out and for it to dye the wool. So yeah, it'll be a good, cheaper, more economical way of dyeing wool for my yarn kits, which I sell in my Etsy shop, and the link for that's in the description bar below. And yeah, the way energy prices are going up at the moment as well, it'll just be a good way of looking to the future to be able to produce things for my kits without it costing me a lot of money in energy and creating a lot of excess energy as well. So yeah, so that was the results of that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them. I might put those in my kits, I'm not sure, or I might just put them on the Etsy shop for people to buy them as they are. But yeah, they turned out okay. Not as bright as the skirt and blouse that I did, but yeah, it was still a good experiment. So that's that. I can't really think of anything. Oh yes, a book review. That was the other thing I wanted to do. I've been having a rummage through my books, and I've been having a look through my dye books because I want to do a video on what plants you can use from your garden or that you find around your home, and what you can use in the dye pot to dye your wool or dye your fabric. So I've been doing a lot of research in my books that I have at home, and I came across this one. It's called Traditional Scottish Dyes. It is a book by Jean Fraser, and it's a Scottish history of natural dyes. Now I saw this book when I was in Arisaig in Scotland a few years ago, and I thought it looked an interesting little book because I love Scotland, and I thought it would be good to be able to get back to times past, history of what they used as in their plants. Now this is a great little book because it has which colours you can use to obtain the different colours from different plants. It says colours and which plants to collect, and then it's yellow, green, brown, purple, black, red and orange, pink, grey, blue and violet, and it actually tells you what plants you can gather from nature to get those colours, and then it's all separated into those colours and what plants you need to pick to get those colours. It also has recipes as well in it, and it tells you the recipe for each particular plant that you can find in Scotland and how they dyed the wool. And it is sort of traditional dyes, so it would have been what people sort of 200 years ago would have picked to get particular colours which they would have used in their tartans and in their wool products, and it gives you the recipe as to how they did that as well. So a lot of it is for £1 of wool, but I'm sure that you could halve or double or whatever the recipe to still obtain the same colour for the amount of yarn that you want to do or the amount of wool that you want to do. It tells you how long you need to cook it for. It also tells you what things you need, mordants you need or modifiers you need to add to get particular colours. And yeah, it's just a really, really good book. It has so many different plants in it as well that you'll probably find around your home. It's got birch bark, it's got birch as well. And then it's got, let's have a look at something else, bracken, how to use bracken, brambles as well, foxgloves, how to use foxgloves, dock as well, yeah, it's got nettles in there as well. Privet is another one. I have heard people use privet before, but I've not actually done that myself. Rowan, which we get a lot of around here, rowan berries. And I believe with rowan you can use the berries. It says rowan berries and foxglove flowers were reported to give a bright orange dye by the King Usi Folklore Museum. A test using alum as a mordant was unsuccessful. So they have managed to get a particular colour out of those two things, the rowan berries and the foxglove, but they haven't been able to reproduce it, so that might be worth an experiment. Let's have a look. So that was the rowan. Then there's St John's wort as well, Hypericum. It says the colour depends on a tiny intensity of dark violet gland on the anther, which contains the reddish violet fluid which dyes fingers red if the buds and flowers are crushed in the hand. Although the roots and other parts of the plant may also be used for dyeing, it is mostly the cluster of buds and flowers that are used. So yeah, as you can see, it's a great little book. I picked that up on eBay. There it is again. I picked it up on eBay and I think it was about £6. Even though it's an older book, it's a hard to get book. But if you can find it, I highly recommend it, because if you're someone who likes to go foraging, it is a great book to have. There's yarrow flag iris in there, there's yarrow in there, bittercress, willow, weld, even water lilies, thistles. I didn't know you could use thistles. I have loads of them around here. You have to dye it with indigo first, apparently, looking at the book, so yeah. So yeah, there's plenty to whet the appetite in that book, and I think it's something that I'm going to be using to do my video, which I will do about plants around me that I can use for dyeing wool, and maybe even try experimenting with some of them as well to show you what results I can get as well. So yeah, that's my book review for today. I can't think of anything else really other than what I'm looking to do in the future, which is get on with my garden, try and get some new hens to keep Pippa company, but if not, then she will obviously have to go to a new home. I can't keep a hen by herself, they get very lonely, and they are flock birds and they do need to be with other birds, other chickens, so it's not fair for me to keep her on her own. So if I can't find any new hens by the end of the week, then that will have to be something that I do, because I don't want to keep her on her own for too long. It's not fair. She's getting lonely, she's getting fretful that she has been left on her own. She keeps wandering around, quite fretful. She's screaming at the top of her voice when I leave her on her own. So yeah, it's not very fair. So I'm going to give it till the end of the week to try and find some new hens, and then if not, she'll go to a new home next week. So that's that with Pippa. I do have a couple of other projects in the pipeline as well, but at the moment, off the top of my head, I don't have them written down, so I'll have to discuss them with you next time. Yeah, so I think that's it for today. I hope you like my new space, my new shed. Behind me is a picture that I got off my auntie for Christmas a few years ago, and then on the wall here is my Ashford Samplite loom, which has got a scarf on, which will be going in my Etsy shop when it eventually gets finished. And yeah, I think that's it for now. In my last video I did discuss a bit about the drop spindles that I have, so if you're interested in that, then please do look that up. I'll put a link for that here for you. And I hope you have a good week. I think that's it for today. I can't think of anything else that I want to say, so I will leave it there before I start waffling again. So enjoy the rest of your week and have a good weekend, and I will see you next time. So bye for now. Bye.